What if the $7 carton of eggs you bought last spring wasn't just the price of a virus? What if part of that price was the price of a phone call? For years, Americans were told one simple story about why eggs became so expensive. Bird flu wiped out the chickens, so supply crashed, so prices climbed. That part is true, but federal investigators now say that's not the whole story. According to a lawsuit filed by the Department of Justice and 17 state attorneys general, 3 of the country's biggest egg producers didn't just react to a shortage. They allegedly coordinated with each other to make it worse and more profitable for themselves in the process. Here's what's confirmed. Cal-Maine Foods, Versova, and Hickman's Egg Ranch have agreed to pay a combined $3.3 million and donate over 53 million eggs to food banks as part of a settlement that still needs a federal judge's approval. Investigators allege the 3 companies' coordinated bid submitted to a company called Berry, the industry's pricing benchmark, to make it look like demand for eggs was stronger than it actually was. All 3 companies deny wrongdoing. So today we're separating fact from allegation. What bird flu actually did to the egg supply, what investigators claim these companies did on top of that, why one of these companies has been down this road before, and whether the settlement even comes close to covering what American families paid at the register. If you've got a theory on where the truth actually lands here, drop in the comments. I want to see how many of you called it before we get there. How egg prices normally work. To understand why this story matters, you have to understand how boring egg pricing is supposed to be. Eggs are one of the most stable, most predictable products in the entire grocery store. The production cycle is short, the supply chain is simple, and there's no seasonal harvest or complicated global sourcing involved. Hens lay eggs on a steady rhythm, and that consistency is exactly why a dozen eggs has historically been one of the cheapest sources of protein a family can buy. Pricing across the industry runs through a mix of direct contracts and something called the Berry Index, a daily benchmark that reports what eggs are actually trading for between producers, distributors, and retailers. Grocery chains and restaurant suppliers lean on that number constantly because it's treated as a neutral, independent snapshot of the real market. Every year, billions of dollars worth of eggs get priced off that single benchmark, according to the Justice Department's own complaint. Here's the part that matters most for this story. That benchmark relies heavily on self-reported data from the very companies whose prices it's supposed to independently reflect. In other words, the number that's supposed to keep everyone honest is built, in part, on numbers the industry hands over itself. That's exactly why eggs work so well as an economic bellwether, and exactly why any distortion in that number doesn't stay small. It ripples through the entire national supply chain, all the way down to the carton in your fridge. There's also a structural reason grocery chains care so much about egg prices specifically. Many retailers use eggs as what's called a loss leader, a product priced low, sometimes even below cost, just to get shoppers through the door, because once they're inside, they buy everything else too. That means any disruption to egg pricing doesn't just affect the egg aisle, it messes with the pricing strategy retailers build their entire store layout around, which is part of why purchase limits and surcharges spread so fast once the shortage hit. There's also a legal reason this kind of coordination is treated so seriously, even when no single company acted alone. Antitrust law doesn't require proof that executives shook hands in a room. A documented pattern of matching behavior, shared signals, or coordinated timing can be enough to build a case, especially when paired with direct evidence like an email. That's part of why this case took roughly a year and a half to build, from the time the investigation reportedly began around March 2025 to the filing in June 2026. These cases live and die on paper trails, not just outcomes. The bird flu crisis. Now, to the part of this story nobody disputes. Beginning in February 2022, a highly pathogenic strain of avian influenza, H5N1, began tearing through poultry farms across the United States. It's since been detected in all 50 states. When a flock tests positive, there's no waiting it out. The entire population has to be culled almost immediately to stop the virus from spreading to neighboring farms. And international trade agreements actually require this kind of mass culling, so that countries importing American poultry don't end up with side of bird flu along with it. By early 2025, the numbers were staggering. More than 166 million commercial birds had died or been culled since the outbreak began, according to USDA data, with roughly 127 million of those being egg-laying hens specifically. That an average loss of over 40 million laying hens a year, out of a national flock that normally sits around 375 to 390 million birds, meaning the industry was losing something like 11% of its entire laying population annually. Some individual outbreaks wiped out over 1 million birds at a single facility in a matter of days. And rebuilding isn't quick. A new hen doesn't reach laying maturity for months after hatching. So even after an outbreak passed through a region, the supply gap it left behind lingered for a long stretch afterward. Just to put this outbreak in context, the previous major bird flu event, back in 2014 and 2015, affected around 50 million birds total and largely burned out within about a year. This outbreak has now dragged on for over 4 years, hitting in repeated waves as migratory birds carry the virus south each fall and back north each spring, meaning the industry never really got a clean, sustained stretch to fully recover before the next wave hit. This was a genuine agricultural disaster. Full stop. Nobody credibly disputes that bird flu caused real, devastating losses to America's egg supply. But a real crisis can still leave room for opportunistic behavior layered on top of it. And that's exactly the part investigators zeroed in on. Egg prices explode. The consumer-facing side of this got ugly fast. Grocery chains in multiple states capped how many cartons a single shopper could buy, the kind of limit usually reserved for storm prep, not a routine breakfast item. Restaurants that lean heavily on eggs started adding surcharges just to keep omelets and egg dishes on the menu, without losing money on every plate. By January 2025, the national average price for a dozen grade A eggs hit a record $4.95, according to USDA's Economic Research Service. It kept climbing. By early March 2025, the daily national average hit $8.15 a dozen, and the monthly average for March landed at $6.23, nearly triple what shoppers were used to paying. Some regions saw it even higher. And then Easter hit, a holiday built around dying eggs, right at the peak of the shortage, which is exactly why so many families ended up dyeing potatoes instead, just to keep the tradition alive without spending a small fortune on decorations they'd never actually eat. A supply shock explains a price increase, but it doesn't automatically explain the shape of that increase. And once regulators started looking closer at the shape of this one, the story shifted from why did this happen to did someone make this worse than it needed to be? Then came the investigation. On June 29th, 2026, the Department of Justice's Antitrust Division, alongside attorneys general from 17 states, including New York, California, Texas, Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, among others, filed a civil lawsuit in federal court in Iowa against Cal-Maine Foods, Hickman's Egg Ranch, and the Versova entities. The allegation that between June 2022 and March 2025, these three companies coordinated bids submitted to Anna Berry's daily pricing reports, artificially inflating the benchmark that shapes what retailers and consumers pay for eggs nationwide. This isn't a vague accusation. According to New York Attorney General Letitia James's office, investigators point to a specific piece of documented evidence, an email from Hickman's NCO in December 2022, sent to executives at Versova and Cal-Maine, urging them to submit strong bids, early and often to push prices higher. If that's accurate, that's not just companies independently reacting to the same shortage. That's alleged direct coordination between competitors who are supposed to be setting prices separately, not comparing notes. All three companies deny wrongdoing. Cal-Maine specifically called the claims baseless and said its conduct was lawful, appropriate, and in the best interest of supplying eggs to the marketplace. Cal-Maine CEO Sherman Miller said the settlement lets the company move forward so it can focus on delivering affordable, high-quality eggs to consumers, while describing the period under review as a particularly challenging time shaped by more than just bird flu, pointing to pandemic, weather, and broader market conditions too. Versova pushed back in a similar direction, noting that its farmers don't set the wholesale price of eggs, and that most of its pricing depends on the cost of grain used in chicken feed rather than any coordinated strategy. Hickman's current owner, Maniquiri USA, noted the alleged conduct happened before its acquisition of the company. So how do you settle a case for millions of dollars while insisting you did nothing wrong? Because a settlement isn't a confession. Antitrust litigation can drag on for years, cost enormous amounts in legal fees regardless of outcome, and carry real risk of a worse result at trial. Settling ends the uncertainty. Notably, Cal-Maine wasn't assessed any direct fines or civil penalties by the DOJ itself. Its contribution is the eggs and its share of the state's settlement fund. Whether you read that as accountability or as a company buying its way out of a headache is really the core question this whole story leaves you with. Who are these egg companies? Cal-Maine Foods is, by a wide margin, the largest egg producer in the United States, a publicly traded company whose entire business is built around egg production at massive national scale. Versova and Hickman's Egg Ranch are smaller by comparison, but still major regional players. That points to something important about this industry. Despite supplying a product nearly every household buys weekly, egg production in America is run by a relatively small number of large companies. And this isn't Cal-Maine's first run-in with regulators over pricing. Back in 2020, the Texas Attorney General sued the company over alleged price gouging during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, claiming Cal-Maine tripled prices without facing any actual supply shortage of its own. And in 2023, a federal jury found that Cal-Maine and several other major egg producers had illegally restricted supply back in the early 2000s specifically to drive prices higher, a case that resulted in $53 million in damages awarded to food companies like Kraft Heinz and Kellogg, who've been buying eggs as an ingredient. That a company with a documented history of pricing disputes now facing its third major allegation in roughly 5 years. That kind of pattern matters when you think about market concentration. When a handful of companies control a large share of a national market, coordinated behavior becomes both easier to pull off and harder to catch from the outside. You don't need dozens of companies secretly working together to move a national benchmark. A few major players acting in the same direction at the same time can be enough. That's exactly why regulators pay close attention to industries shaped like this one. Where did the money go? Here's how the settlement actually breaks down. Cal-Maine is paying $1.5 million and donating 30 million eggs. Versova is paying $800,000 and donating 20 million eggs. Hickman's is paying $1 million and donating 3.25 million eggs. All told, $3.3 million in cash to the participating states, and roughly 53 million eggs going to food banks and nonprofits. Each company is also required to appoint dedicated antitrust compliance officers, put formal programs in place, and stop communicating with competitors about prices or bidding strategies going forward. On paper, that sounds significant. 53 million eggs is a real, tangible benefit reaching food banks that were themselves squeezed by high prices during the shortage. But critics, including consumer advocacy groups like Food and Water Watch, have pointed out the math doesn't come close to matching the scale of the problem. According to their analysis, Cal-Maine alone booked more than $1 billion in what they call windfall profit during the first 3 quarters of fiscal year 2025, with its profit margin on every dozen eggs sold nearly tripling year over year despite only modest increases in its own production costs. For the full 2025 fiscal year, Cal-Maine reported $1.22 billion in total profit. Against numbers like that, a $3.3 million settlement spread across 17 states looks less like restitution and more like a rounding error. Defenders of the settlement argue it was never designed to fully reimburse estimated damages. Its purpose is to stop the alleged behavior going forward and avoid a drawn-out trial that could take years with no guarantee of a bigger outcome even if the states won. Both things can be true at once. The settlement can represent real accountability, and it can still feel painfully small to a family that spent over a year paying triple for breakfast, while a single company posted the most profitable stretch in its history. This isn't just about eggs. It's also worth knowing this case didn't happen in isolation. The Justice Department's Antitrust Division has been explicit that food affordability is a current enforcement priority, and eggs aren't the only grocery item under this kind of scrutiny. In May 2026, the DOJ opened a separate antitrust investigation into major beef producers, examining many of the same underlying questions: industry concentration, shared pricing benchmarks, and whether a handful of companies can quietly move national prices while consumers have no way of knowing it's happening. Officials have said they're exploring every law enforcement tool available to bring down food costs across multiple categories. Not just this one. That context matters because it suggests regulators increasingly see this egg case as a template, not an exception. Grocery concentration runs deeper than most shoppers realize. The top 4 grocery retailers alone account for roughly 3/4 of all grocery sales in the country. And when an industry is that concentrated on both the production side and the retail side, price increases at the farm level tend to pass through to the register at a higher rate than they would in a more competitive market. A Kroger executive actually acknowledged something along these lines during testimony over the company's failed merger attempt with Albertsons, that some retailers raise prices beyond what inflation alone would explain. None of that proves coordination in every case. But it does mean the egg settlement probably won't be the last headline of its kind. What happens next? Right now, this settlement is still just a proposal. It needs to be formally approved by a federal judge before any of it becomes binding, which means there's still a window for objections, revisions, or even rejection before this case is officially closed. If approved, the companies will be under new compliance obligations and monitoring for the foreseeable future, with dedicated antitrust officers responsible for making sure nothing like this happens again. Consumer advocacy groups have already signaled they don't consider the matter settled in spirit, even once it's settled on paper. Several have publicly argued that the penalty is too small relative to the alleged harm, and that meaningful deterrence would require numbers far closer to what consumers actually overpaid, not a fraction of one company's single quarter of profit. Why prices fell so fast? So why did prices crash back down and crash hard? As bird flu detection slowed through 2026 and farmers rebuilt flocks that had been culled, national egg production surged. The laying flock climbed back above 308 million hens by early 2026. Combined with jump in egg imports, reportedly 4 times the prior year's volume, brought in specifically to help combat grocery inflation, supply came roaring back, right as consumer demand, still scarred from the price spikes, stayed soft. Some analysts estimate demand dropped by as much as 15% at the peak of the crisis, as shoppers simply cut back or switched to alternatives. The results have been dramatic. By May 2026, the average retail price for a dozen grade A eggs had fallen to around $2.19, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics data. And wholesale prices paid to farmers collapsed even harder, down more than 90% from a year earlier in some reporting weeks. Retail prices are now running roughly 60% below where they stood at the same point last year. In fact, prices have fallen so fast, that egg farmers are now warning about selling below their own cost production, and Cal-Maine itself has swung from record profits to a painful earnings miss, with its stock falling to a 52-week low as the value market it thrived on turned into oversupply almost overnight. Sit with that whiplash for a second. Prices tripled in a matter of months during the shortage, and then once supply caught up, they didn't just normalize, they crashed straight through pre-crisis levels and kept falling. That's exactly the kind of pattern that raises a question investigators were already asking. If the market could correct this fast and this hard once conditions change, how much of the original spike was really about scarce eggs, and how much was about a benchmark that, according to the DOJ, may have been nudged higher than the actual shortage justified? The bird flu crisis was real. Over 100 million laying hens were lost, and that created a legitimate shortage every family felt. Nobody disputes that. But investigators believe something else happened on top of it. A shared pricing benchmark, allegedly nudged by coordinated bidding between 3 of the industry's biggest players, pushing prices even higher than the crisis alone would explain. The companies deny wrongdoing, yet they've agreed to pay millions, hand over tens of millions of eggs, and install new compliance programs to stop this exact kind of coordination going forward. Whether that's simply the cost of avoiding a long legal fight or a quiet admission that something wasn't right, the truth probably sits somewhere in between. And with Cal-Maine now facing its 3rd pricing-related legal challenge in 5 years, this likely won't be the last time. One thing is certain. When a grocery staple triples in price within months, it doesn't stay an abstract number in a report. It shows up in real breakfasts and real budgets. So next time you grab a $2 carton without a second thought, it's worth remembering how fast that number can move, and how much of that move may not have been as unavoidable as we were told. Bite back bites. We chew through the nonsense, so you don't have to.